Hi, welcome back to Resurrecting Shorty, the restoration of my 1965 Series IIA Land Rover. Last time I talked for a long while about the crossmember and why I'm replacing it with a new galvanised one. Then I removed the bushes from the new crossmember, drilled some holes in it, and then mutilated it with a grinder. So you can see I've got the tub sitting back on loosely, and I've adjusted the position of the bulkhead to get the best possible fit that I can for the doors. And what this has highlighted is that the tub wasn't sitting in the correct place before. So previously, I think what it was doing was it was sitting slightly high at the front or low at the back, which is why I've had to wedge with a bit of wood under here. I've wedged these bits of wood, just lifting the back off of the crossmember a bit. So this crossmember is not in the right place. But the good thing is, I am at the point where I can do a lot of adjustment and try and get everything right, so that when I do put it all back together, it should all fit. So as you've seen in the previous videos, the rear crossmember is only held to the rest of the chassis by some pieces of steel which I've tack welded between the two pieces. The only other thing preventing the crossmember coming away is the rear springs. So as you can see, I'm removing the bottom pins from the shackles, which is allowing the springs to come adrift, and I will lower the axle down on the jack. Now that that's done, I can put some support under the back of the crossmember, cut through the tack welds on the pieces of steel, and then the crossmember can come off. So now the old crossmember is off and out of the way, I need to prep the ends of the chassis rails ready for the new one to be welded to it. This is simply a matter of grinding off those tack welds and cleaning off all of the paint for the first few inches of the chassis rail, ready for where the new one's going to be welded to. So now that the old crossmember is off, I've just taken the time to put the body tub on and position it so that the dimensions for the doors are correct. It's sitting at the right height, it's sitting level with the doors, with the bulkhead, everything lines up quite nicely. So I'm happy that this is where it needs to be. So what I now need to do is make up a pair of front body tabs to hold the position at the front, and that will sort of fix it, and then I can make sure I've got the packs on the top of the chassis to hold it up at the back, and that should all stay put while I put this in and get this tack welded in position on the back of the chassis. This is one of the front body mounts on Shorty, and this is not how they did it at the factory. It should have a tab welded to the top of this outrigger that sits behind this flange on the tub and bolts through the holes here. When I came to do it, this is back in 2005, and I was messing around with it and replaced the outriggers and stuff, I can't remember the exact reasoning why, but at the time I'm sure it made sense. I made these tabs and I simply bolted them through a couple of holes in the front face of the outrigger. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. So I'm going to take these off, get them out of the way because they're not necessarily in the right place and they might be stopping me from doing some adjustment, and they're only bolted on anyway. So this is where the body mount needs to go on the passenger side. So I've made up a new body mounting tab. I'm just going to bolt this in to hold it in position. Make sure that it stays lined up with the holes. So that's this body tab welded onto the outrigger. I couldn't film actually welding it because there wasn't room to get the camera and everything in here and me to actually do it, so sorry about that. And this is the driver's side one welded into position. Now that that's done, I'm ready to actually put this new cross member on. So the idea is that I'll line it up with the chassis rails, sleeve it onto them, and then lift it up into position, and then tack weld it into place underneath the truck. Then I can take the body tub off again and do the full welding afterwards. As you may remember from the last video, I cut notches in the forward facing end of the new rear cross member. So that's formed all these little fingers which I'd splayed out to make it easier to push onto the existing chassis rail. So now I'm just using a G-clamp to push those tight against the sides of the chassis rail so that I can tack weld them into place, and this will hold the cross member in position so I can then take the body tub off again and then weld it up properly. And here it is, fully fixed into position and all welded up. Now that the old cross member is off the truck and laying upside down on the floor, you can see the full extent to which it has rotted away underneath. Some fairly bad corrosion. And it's right up underneath this suspension mount. I would say that it was definitely a good idea to completely replace this. The last thing to do is to retrieve these spring shackles so that I can refit the axle to the truck, which I need to do because it's stuck in the doorway at the minute. So that's the shackles removed. I can't be bothered to remove the previous set of bushes that were in the old cross member. And as it happens, I have got a set of these very cheap polyurethane bushes. So what I'm going to do is just slip these in for the moment, just so I can keep the truck mobile, but I will actually probably be replacing these with a better quality set before she goes back on the road. But you can see how easy a poly bush is to install. Takes no time. Do the same thing this side. So that's both of the chassis bushes installed. So just putting this shackle back together. Just going to back that off a little bit just so it makes it easier to fit the springs. I'm going to check exactly which way round these actually go, because I have a feeling that they're on wrong. But I'm going to be taking them off again anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. So that's the rear cross member fitted to the chassis, and I'm really pleased with how this has gone. There's a couple of other little jobs to do, but I'll get to those in a later video. For the meantime, that's where I'm going to leave it for this one. So thanks ever so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Tell people if you think they might like the video, share it on social media, that all helps the channel. Apart from that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!